Have you ever been in discussion at work? It can be about anything. In my case, I was starting a new job. They decided to move from siloed teams per application into cross-functional teams. This is the moment I was hired. We needed new testers. We had 4 open positions. We were starting in 2 weeks. We needed a new testing strategy that would suit this new cross-functional way of working. We had no idea how people were going to adjust to this change. And we had a serious problem that there was not much test automation going on. And our regression testing, honestly, was running nightly, but nobody was looking at the results. And when I started bringing up these topics in the first conversations, very often, we get this answer. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Should we hire some very technical people in? Should we talk about how we're setting up our pipelines? Should we get a lead developer to assist us on some of these quality engineering questions? Well, we'll get to that bridge, and we'll cross it when we get there. Now, here's the thing. I am not wired that way. I need more information on that bridge right now. I need you to tell me who's crossing it, how big it needs to be, what the span of the river is. Do not tell me we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because my brain is going to think through these things no matter what. That's how it works for Sanne. Decision-making is a challenging thing, and I'm very grateful for Alex's keynote because a lot of this ties in. It's also deeply personal. And just as a caveat, there is no real wrong way to make a decision, just to be clear. They're just thought processes in people's brains. So there are as many ways to make a decision as there are people. But basically, it's usually this. You define the decision, you explore the possibilities, you narrow it down to a top 2 or 3, you pick one, and then you monitor. Surely it's that easy. This looks perfect. It is so not. It is never that simple. But in its essence, that's what decision-making is. So what is my decision-making process like? I'll be very honest in this section. First question that always occurs to me is, why me? Why are you asking me to make this decision? And it should be noted, not every decision should be yours. Shouldn't be yours alone. But a lot of the time, as you progress in your career more and more and more, yes, it is you. They are looking to you. And yes, you should be making that decision. But my first gut reaction still to this day, having been in leadership roles for a couple of years now, is still, really? You're trusting me to make this multi-million-dollar decision? Are you sure? Do you know me? But rarely is a decision just up to me. However, as you become more and more senior, it will be. And you can have a choice how collaborative you're going to be about this process, or how authoritative you'll need to be. This is my next reaction. Okay, fine, this is my problem area. Apparently I need to own it. Now I will go proceed to overthink it. Every single possibility, every option, everything that we might need to do. So for those 4 people in positions I needed to hire, for teams that didn't even exist yet, I thought up, I think, at least 20 different job specs, just in case one of those 20 types of people would be needed on those teams. That is an awful lot of work to put into something that is incredibly unclear. But that's how my brain works. I need to go through all of that and gather all that information, but I won't be quite done yet at this point. This mess isn't big enough, and I don't trust myself, so I will go ask other people. Now, this can be really good, but for an overthinker who already has a lot of information, it can just add more on top of a huge mess. Now, instead of having 20 profiles for these new testers, I'll have 40 or even 100. At the very least, I'll have a whole bunch more opinions from other people that don't know my context or don't understand it or do, and I have to take it into account. So the next thing that happens is, oh my God, too much information. Complete overwhelm. And typically this will cause freeze or flight for me. This is the moment where I'll think, it's just a job. Stop stressing. Doesn't work thinking that, but I'll try to tell myself that. And otherwise it's freeze. I'll not do anything. I'll just leave it and try not to think about it, which also doesn't work. Next step is straight up panic, because that deadline is still hammering down at my door. I still need to make that decision. And I've tried to ignore it, I've tried to postpone it, I've procrastinated, I've cleaned my entire fucking kitchen, but I have not made that decision. And now I'm panicking. By the way, no one sees this. I'm very good at work to be completely calm and in control. And be like, yes, of course we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Not a problem. Yes, sir. I'm fine. I am not dying on the inside. And how do I do this? Absolutely not. Professional Sanne is calm all the time. Very cool. So the next step is, because I think on paper, is I write everything down. And this is where I will take into account things that we take from the quality trifecta. How much time does it cost? What data points do I have? How long can I take to make this decision? Any of these data points that will influence all come down onto paper. So it will be all about time, it will be all about cost, and it will be very much data-driven. And that will feel incredibly good, because I've done a thing. It's on paper. I am so proud of myself now. I wrote it down. That's productive. Because I've made a list. And that list feels really good. I haven't made any single flippant decision, but I have a list. And lists are good. And lists can be written down with very neat bullet points and lots of graphics, and they're pretty. Especially when you make like a pro and a con list, and you have like more in the pro column than on the con column, and you have that on different options. Oh, it's good. But then I'll talk to more people, because that's what I do. I make decisions by talking to folks. So I'll pull out that list and talk to more people, add more information as if I needed it. But that's because my brain thinks magically somewhere there's someone that will know what to do. And that someone won't be me. And now the deadline's approaching, so I panic again. I still have to make that decision. We still have those 4 testers we need to hire. And I'll just pick one, randomly. I'll just pick one of those choices and go with it. On to the next. That's how my process goes. So it's an emotional roller coaster, and it's incredibly exhausting. And at some point in my career, I thought maybe there are ways to do this better. And it turns out there are. In fact, there's a lot of research on it as well. This feeling of overwhelm. You don't always need more information. Self-doubt. You're being asked to make these decisions because you have the experience to make the decisions. The beating yourself up, I'm not quite sure what to do about, except maybe some therapy. But this is the one that gets me every time. This is why I have this emotional reaction. There's a lot of people that follow me blindly. I don't know why, but they do. I have testers on my teams where if I say we're going that direction, they will follow. They will not question it. They will not ask me anything. With complete faith and trust, they will go there. Not everyone, but a significant group of people will just blindly trust me. And that's the part that gets me. That's why I have all this emotion around decision making. And it's never just one decision, and it's never linear. But there are things that can be better, some actionable advice for you and other people that think this way. Is it reversible? Whatever you're deciding to do, can it be changed back? And how easy or hard would that be? In the case of hiring 4 new testers, that's fairly irreversible. When it comes to trying out a new tool to see if it works for your test automation, that's fairly reversible. So in what range is your decision? From not being easy to change back to being impossible to change back to being very simple to change. Regret. it is better to choose from 2 options. Try and make your decision not about 20 different tester profiles, but about 2. Try and make it an and/or question, or a yes/no construction. As soon as you can, make it 2 options or less. 3 options or less is a better sentence. This is another really good one also when talking with people. Instead of asking, what are your thoughts about this decision, which is how I tend to ask for information, frame it this way. If I decided option yes, would you be against it? And why? If I decided option no, would you be against that? And why? And this is a very good way to actually get more information, because instead of just asking what are your opinions, of which people have many, and they will grant them to you, this is more constructive. Set limits on information gathering, because the more information you gather, the more you also open yourself up to a confirmation bias, which is you'll gather more information that supports the choice you're already leaning towards making. You'll just get more of that. There comes a point where it's just not useful anymore. This is a tough one, but it is better to make a good decision quickly than to make a perfect one slowly. I still struggle with this one, but all the research points out it is better to make a decision sooner rather than later, even when it's the wrong one. And that's a tough pill to swallow. Here's another option. What's the best case? What's the worst case? If there's a worst case, do you have a plan for it? And this is the most important one. You can't only stay in your head. At some point, you have to somehow get it down, get it into a document, get it into a structure, and have it be visible, be observable. And practice helps. The more you do it, the easier it does get. All right, great. We've made a decision, we've got the 4 profiles, we know what we want to do on test automation, we've got the teams reorganized, now what? Because that's a whole lot of stuff. How do you prioritize? So as I do, I've overthought prioritization. And here's some 5 ways that I use a lot. There's this very popular Eisenhower matrix, which is if it's urgent and it's important, do it now. Those are your crises. Those are your fires you need to put out. If it is important but non-urgent, you should plan it. Try and block your calendar if you have any power to do so. Or delegate it if it's unimportant but it is urgent. You can find this matrix in Getting Things Done and a whole bunch of other productivity books. Look those up. This one I learned from a fellow test manager. Don't do it unless it's one of your strengths, it's a project goal, and it's a personal goal. And only when it hits all 3, do that. That's a tough one. It means you have to be really aligned on what your goals are, your company goals are, and how those mesh, and know what you're good at. But I think it can work. This is a very popular one for me, because it works with procrastination. Do the worst thing first. The one thing that is the ugliest, slimiest frog, that task on your backlog that you absolutely despise, it is awful. That croaky bastard has been sitting there for a month, and you know you need to do it. Do that one. Grease the squeaky wheel. Take a look at all the stuff you need to do. Would hiring the testers be the thing that makes everything else easier? In this case, yes, it was, because it meant I could delegate more. Grease the squeaky wheel. Which one would make everything else easier? Do that one first. And when I'm overwhelmed, this is the one that works best. Follow the fun. Which thing on your to-do list makes you feel curious, looks like fun, you feel like exploring? Follow the fun. But what about when there's 2 equal choices? In the literature, this is called hard choices. This is the cholera or plague thing. They seem equal. There's no way to entirely know everything about these choices either, but you still have to decide. So you're never sure what you choose. You don't know how either of these options is going to work out. And there's lots of choices like this. It can happen in the morning when you're picking your breakfast. That's actually a hard choice. Are you going to have eggs, or are you going to have waffles? Are you going to drink tea, or are you going to have coffee? And it's unknowable how that's going to work out in the future, how that will affect you in the long term. And we are risk averse. So in general, when we come to the hotel here and we pick a breakfast, we'll pick a breakfast we know. Because in general, we don't like new things. And change is uncomfortable and will introduce new risk. If I eat something at the buffet in the hotel that disagrees with me now, this presentation won't go as well. It introduces new risk. If a decision scares you, also you will never feel ready. And this is the interesting part. Now, all of a sudden, it's not about the decision. It's not about cholera or plague. It's not about which breakfast. It's about your why. When choices become this hard, it's our principles that matter. What do we stand for and who are we? And that is what will guide your choice. It's based on who you are. And knowing your North Star will help you choose either cholera or plague. Thank you.
Whenever you applaud, I have to run. I'm 10 meters away, but still. Well done.
Thank you.
And now time for some questions. What do you think about different decision-making processes?
Again, this is, I think, very much personal style, but also context-driven. So my style is incredibly collaborative because I'll do the first information overwhelm part myself, but after that it's constantly consulting on all of these things. However, as I'm growing as a leader, I'm learning that there are times when decisions have to be authoritative, where you don't want that consensus because the onus and responsibility has to be on you. Like a lot of the time in this same project where we were doing so many things all at once, I had to make decisions and then also reassure my testers, I've made this decision, if you get pushback, send them to me. Like that was very authoritative. And democratic, yeah, that would be great, but that's not how leadership works, I think. It doesn't work very well, which maybe explains a lot of politics.
Thank you. Can good decision-making be learned, or it just comes with experience?
Evidence shows it absolutely can be learned. There is lots of research done in this area which kind of supports that there are best practices. However, because it is so personal, I would look at what works for you, but it absolutely can be learned, and the practice element is huge. The more you do it, the more comfortable you do get with it, or at the very least you'll recognize, oh, I'm doing the overwhelm procrastination thing. I've been there. Let me snap out of it, and here's how I can do that.
Thank you. What are the pros and cons of cross-functional team in your experience?
Okay, that's a whole other presentation. Let's see, Adam, who asked that, come find me at the break, because that's just the experience at that assignment that I had. I'll be happy to tell you how that ended up, but that's a different topic.
Okay. What are the sources that you based your presentation on?
Oh, that's a really good question. Most of this is from the Harvard Business Review called Better Decision Making, which has a book and a podcast. And some of it is from other random genius people.
Extremely excited to hear your reply. How is your kitchen doing?
That task has been delegated to my husband.
Okay. Wow. All right. Is making a decision less scary a way of approaching decision making? Smiley face.
Yes, it is. Slicing a decision can make it less scary. Making a really good plan for like a worst case scenario can make it feel less scary. So thinking through, if I choose the yes option and things go wrong, what might they be, and making a plan for that and having that in your drawer, ready to go in case shit does hit the fan, helps me enormously. I do that all the time.
Thank you. You told us interesting points in case a decision was made. Is it hard for you to choose between these, for example, when you go for fun and when not?
This one, not really, because honestly, doing anything is better than doing nothing. So when I have to pick a way to prioritize, I'll go for one of these options that works for me, because doing nothing is always worse than doing one of those. It's still more productive. But that's, again, a personal thing.
Okay. If in the end you choose the random one, why not random right now?
Actually, coin flips work incredibly well, research shows. So once you get to the point where you do just have this binary yes, no, or and, or, you could randomly flip a coin. And the interesting thing about coin flips or random choices is as soon as you've made that coin flip, what you feel in your gut will actually inform further decisions, because you will then decide, oh, I got option A from the coin flip, that feels right, I'll go forward. If you do the coin flip and it feels wrong, you'll move back to B. So random still works really well.
But there is a time for the random decision, right? Not no, from the beginning.
Once you're in the binary stage. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Are there any decision-making tasks you make that bring you joy?
Yeah, choosing dessert. Yeah. Yes, to desserts is usually but those are decision-making things I enjoy.
Thank you so much. And we would like to go back to the PPT for a second.
I have one more point to make. Yes, if you could go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, perfect. Here's an important one. Trust what you knew then and not what you feel now. This is the one to regret. Once you're beyond that point and either shit has hit the fan or it has worked out, trust you then that had the information you had then and not how it's making you feel now, because that is just a road to spiraling down to more and more regret. That's my final note. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you. Now it's time to enjoy the rest of the day for you.